To me, December is the Sydney to Hobart race.
This race, as far as making you feel alive, is the essence of life.
Is it part of me? Yeah, it's getting that way. It's eating into me.
Passion, exhilaration. When you finish the race, you have a great sense of achievement.
One of the most iconic ocean races in the world.
But what else do you do on Boxing Day? This race is just a remarkable challenge.
It's tough. It's getting tougher as I'm getting older.
It's a bit like getting married every year. It's a huge amount of preparation.
It's in my DNA to be out there.
It's the one race a year that I perhaps think about updating my will.
December the 26th, and 76 crews from around the world have arrived in Australia to compete in the 68th Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race. Even after all these years, this classic 630 nautical mile ocean adventure continues to endure.
I keep coming back because I love the race. I love the challenge, I love the preparation, and I love the battle against the ocean and the other yachts. Peter Merrington, also known as Billy, watch captain, Blackjack. You just keep wanting to win the race. It's like why footballers try to go play their grand final every year. It's the same reason. You just want to keep winning.
I've been involved with it my whole entire life. My first memory ever is welcoming my father home after his line honours victory in 1981, and that's just been a passion. Brad Kellett, Sailing Master, Brindabella.
Adrian Carlin, Navigator, Wild Oats 11. I'm a Sydney girl, and it's part of what I've grown up with ever since I was little, watching the boats leave the harbour on Boxing Day.
Japanese sailors はこのシドニー・ホバートレースをみんなよく知っています。My name is Yoichi Ito. I'm Sailing Master for Bengal 7.
My name is Sean Langman. I'm on Maluka of Commandy. Stupidity. What brings me back each year? It's really now it's a strange thing. I actually don't want to miss out.
It all started with me when I was just a little kid. I'm known as Robbo Robertson. I'm the owner-skipper, lunchtime legend. Never knew anything about sailing, but I read this supplement in the Sydney Morning Herald about this Sydney to Hobart race. You know, this is back in probably 1948 or something, and you know, I just treasured that supplement. I carried it around for months, thinking, you know, one day I was going to do this race. But I didn't know what a yacht looked like, really, only that they had masts and they had white sails.
First went to Hobart in '61, which was about 16 years after the Hobart race started. Tony Cable, afterguard of the boat Duende. I went on a first one which was made out of steel, some cotton sails, wooden masts, wooden booms. We didn't have any shoes, we wore bare feet. Oilskins were terrible, they made a sort of very stiff vinyl and leaked. No, it's just changed so much, out of sight.
Bob Steele, owner of Quest, man of leisure. I first came down in the late 70s on a little 33-footer, and it took us 5 days and 7 hours. And I came down on Quest in 2008, the same boat that we're on this year, and we did it in 2 days, 1 hour.
Oh, I don't really miss the old times. My name's Lindsay May and I'm the navigator of Love and War. The boats are so much better to sail, they're so much faster, they're so much more fun. It's a great race.
Mike Broughton, I'm the navigator on Jazz. It seems to me there's no other race of its similar ilk where it has such a big build-up. So people are pretty damn psyched by the time they get to the start day.
Spectator numbers on the water certainly building up very nicely. And an estimated 400,000 on harbour foreshores at every single vantage point. And we're looking forward to a spinnaker start in the 68th Rolex Sydney Hobart.
It's the noisiest day in a yachtsman's career. Pretty much you got 10 choppers, boats tooting horns, crew screaming.
The start of a big yacht race is an adrenaline rush. You know, there's a lot of traffic and you're under a lot of pressure to sort of try and get out of the harbour first. Mark Richards, skipper of Wild Oats 11.
The race record of 1 day, 18 hours and 40 minutes looks on. There's a fresh southerly, but that will change to a nor'easter tomorrow. A finish time 2 hours under the race record is predicted. Lift off, full throttle. We're bound for Hobart. And a superb start from Wild Oats 11. Skipper Mark Richards has done it again.
Let's go.
Behind the bigger boats, 46 yachts coming off the second line, a few hundred metres astern.
Now let's get the board down.
And just look at the gap Wild Oats 11 has opened up on Ragamuffin Loyal. And we've been racing just 3 minutes. A staggering start by the 5-time Line Honours winner. I reckon they're a minute inside their previous harbour record. They've handed their rivals a masterclass in that sprint to the first rounding mark. Nearly 1,000 yachtsmen and women taking part this year. The challenge ahead? Well, getting off the start line in good shape and then getting out of the harbour cleanly. But this first night will be wet and wild off the New South Wales coast. And now Maluka of Kamandi. This is how they used to sail the Hobart. This boat is 30 feet long, 80 years old, and beautifully restored by Sean Langman 5 years ago. They'll take a little bit longer to get to Hobart, that's for sure.
Yeah, this is a race that I've done nearly half my life now. And each year the only thing that's the same is the cheering of the crowds at the beginning and the cheering of the crowds at the end. It's not just a race, it's really a human endeavour.
The leaders in this 76-strong fleet now punching into the southerly, bound for Hobart. Just out of the Sydney heads, we're now off the New South Wales coast and most on starboard tack. We have Wild Oats 11 in the lead, then Ragamuffin Loyal, Lahana, Blackjack, Ichiban and also Loki chasing hard.
The race teaches you a number of things. It teaches you about anticipation, because basically with this race can throw anything at you and you've got to be ready for anything. It teaches you to be thinking about what's going to happen next and anticipating the conditions, what the other boat's going to do, the weather, a whole range of things.
Blackjack with Billy Merrington on board, who won last year on Investec Loyal, and he has the crew working well.
At the end of the day, if I don't learn something going to Hobart, I'm not doing my job properly.
Brad Kellett, very much part of the fabric of this race, on board Brindabella, who won Line Honours way back in 1997. This grand old yacht still looking pristine 15 years on.
I think the greatest lesson this race can teach you is humility. It doesn't matter what background you come from, what wealth you have or don't have. The sea doesn't discriminate. It's the absolute purest thing that I can see that a human being can do, to be propelled by the sea and by the wind to make a destination.
Yeah, hopefully it teaches you to be a better person overall.
Ragamuffin Loyal, closest and steering a more inshore course to Wild Oats 11, who's still dominating the early stages. Very clearly, the Oats is determined to avenge her defeat by Loyal last year.
You know, it is a race, you know, it doesn't always go your way. That's the other thing, you know, that sometimes you have to accept that it's all part of competition, losing, as much as you hate it. but so, you know, you look forward, you look at what you can do better, how you can improve the team. It's actually a good environment to get outside that comfort zone and start to look at better ways of doing things.
So the whole fleet now out of Sydney Heads and on their way south, including Ichiban here, a real handicap contender given the right conditions. And this is where the 630-mile race now comes into its own.
The big bit of the race in between the start and the finish is where the race is won and lost for sure. Matt Allen, the skipper of Ichiban. It's where the Yachties really come into their own.
Another serious handicap contender, Jazz, making good progress, with Englishman Mike Broughton navigating. He knows these waters well.
You turn right out of Sydney Heads, and usually quite often the first night you're straight into a front or a southerly change, and that can bring the much colder winds coming straight from the south, straight from Antarctica, and the sea state can be pretty brutal. Some of the roughest seas in terms of the shortest, sharpest waves I've ever come across has been in this race.
The world's reality is actually out there. In the ocean is the world's reality. The reality is not in these cities. So to get that opportunity to be able to embrace that so quickly and then make a decision where you want to be and then seeing where your spirit lies and where you're connected to, I think is a really important thing to be able to experience.
Day 2 in the Sydney Hobart, and the tough southerly winds experienced on the first day are replaced by advantageous nor'easterlies. Wild Oats 11 is on record pace and has stretched her lead over Ragamuffin Loyal to 50 miles. This unforgiving stretch along the New South Wales coast is when the best crews muscle up and power ahead.
A Sydney to Hobart crewman, they're like people that you would go to war with.
He has to be tenacious, durable, pleasant, strong.
Jeff Cropley, Lahana, and I'm the lead trimmer. You've got to trust your fellow crew member. These big boats can kill you very quickly if you do the wrong thing. A simple thing like taking a wrap off a winch, if done incorrectly, can lead to some serious injury.
These big boats are angry pieces of equipment at times, and when they start biting people, you know, it can be catastrophic.
I get people on the boat and I say, I'm not interested in your good points. What I'm interested in is your bad points.
We have to have mateship there. If we don't, and there's some infighting, the whole pyramid effect takes off. If two people don't like each other, it normally turns into 4 people, and that normally turns into 8 people, and all of a sudden, no one likes each other.
Liesl Tesh, head sail trimmer on whatever. The belief that you have in your teammates, and to be able to put your life, you're putting your life in everyone else's hands on that boat. It brings people together so closely.
You're just lucky, I suppose, for support, you know, when you're on watch, and just the feeling that you're being backed up. James Carroll, boat is Shogun, trimmer. Most of all, there's one communal thought on board, and that's trying to win the race.
If you don't have the crew just working together without big egos, just working as a team, I don't think you've got a chance of winning this race.
Next up for the fleet, the notorious stretch of water between mainland Australia and Tasmania.
Bass Strait, yeah. Bass Strait.
Over the years, Bass Strait has often dealt up disastrous conditions.
There's a line you cross at Gabo Island, and you know, once you cross that line, it's pretty well known amongst the crew that you're in the Bass.
That's right.
It deserves a huge amount of respect.
You learn that you are a Christian because you tend to want to talk to the bloke upstairs.
And I'll tell you, you're pretty happy when you've got to the other side and you can basically say amongst your crew members, we've made it across the Bass and now we're on the Tassie coast. So yeah, definitely, it's a major hurdle in this race, crossing that piece of water.
The afternoon of day 2, and leader Wild Oats 11 surges across Bass Strait, which for once is proving favourable. The race record is still very much on, but can she hold this pace along the Tasmanian coast?
The people that do the best, they see Bondi, and the next thing they see is Tasman Light. So there's a lot of ocean in between. There's not a lot of landfall that you pick up because if you approach the Tasmanian coast too early, generally there's a big wind shadow.
People sometimes think, oh, I don't have to sleep now or whatever else. And you've got 200 miles almost down the Tassie coast. Then you've got 50 miles from Tasman Island to the finish.
Tasman Island is such a huge, imposing rock. And for first timers, they see it and think they're there and they don't realise it's still a good way away.
At just past 7 a.m. on day 3 of the Sydney Hobart, Wild Oats 11 has the finish at Battery Point within her sights. Despite winds being as fickle as ever along the Derwent River, her 2005 race record is well within reach. As always, there's plenty of support out on the water to spur her on. Wild Oats breaks the record by 17 minutes in a time of 1 day, 18 hours and 23 minutes. It's a 6th Line Honours victory from 8 Hobart starts for skipper Mark Richards and his brilliant crew.
It was a good race, very, very testing. A lot of sail changes and a lot of crew manoeuvres throughout the whole race. A lot of fresh air running, and it was pretty tricky across Bass Strait. You know, good 20 to 25 knots of nor'easter blowing, but a very tricky sea state for this big boat. And you know, steering around the waves and plugging the back of waves is really difficult. It was a long, tough race. The boys are just pushing the whole time, and then all of a sudden the record sort of popped up, and it's like, God, we might have a chance of this, guys. And all the way to the finish was looking good. Even though it went really light there, we thought, God, we could stop right in front of the finish line like it's happened before and lose it, but we got there, so it was great.
With conditions certainly favouring the bigger boats, Wild Oats' record time will go on to be good enough to collect the rare double, line honours and overall handicap victory. For the remaining fleet, just finishing in Constitution Dock over the next 3 days is prize enough.
The elation of the finish is quite interesting. I suppose it'd be somewhat like being in the trenches or something like that. There is something that you've been through something together and you've come through the other side. You know, there's highs, there's lows. There is a little yelp that goes out, and then there's a sort of silence, and then there's a nod, a handshake and a hug. And it's that little pause of silence which is that bond that always keeps us together.
Yes, damn sure it means a huge amount. So doing the race and doing well is really important, but actually ticking it off, it's not an easy tick, it's a hard tick.
We don't want to arrive in Hobart thinking we've left anything on the table. We want to make sure that we've done the absolute best job that we can as a team and as a boat.
Once you cross the finish line, you'll definitely go around and you'll pat your mates on the back, and it's a sense of achievement like you've been through a battle. And it's the same feeling, and basically you'll sit down and have a few drinks and discuss the race, and it's certainly an achievement that you've made, and you look forward to the next year.
So after you've been through this, yeah, there's great kinship between the crews, that we're all mates together and we've gone through something that might have been pretty tough. We've come out the other end and we enjoy and celebrate that.
My grandfather sailed this race, my father sailed this race, so it's passed down through generations, and you know, I feel like I'm part of it, definitely, and I like to be part of it. And I hope that, you know, later on in life, maybe my son will do it, and you know, it's something that I'm definitely happy to be part of, proud to be.
Next time on Spirit of Yachting, we're in Saint-Tropez for the classic that is the Geralia Rolex Cup.